there's not only one. That go fast? Oh, okay. Ah.
It just shows that.
Oh my God, there's so many people. Really? Wow. So you're with the Arts Council of Lowell? Nice. So do you arrange art shows around town?
Good evening. Welcome to the March 28th meeting of the Lowell License Commission. Secretary Wynn, was the meeting posted? Number 1 on the agenda, please. Commissioner Krieger, Your Honor. So you're not going to do it, okay. Move approval by Commissioner McCarthy, seconded by Commissioner Howe. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Next.
The Holy Family Parish of an event that's held at the Holy Trinity Parish, 340 High Street. It's a Mother's Day event for Saturday, May 11, 2019, from 8 p.m. to 11:30 p.m.
Good evening. State your name for the record.
Yeah, good evening.
How are you?
Very good.
Very good. So what's going on at your event?
Yeah, it's a celebration Mother's Day.
It's a celebration?
Yes.
Okay, have you held this license before, Mr.
No.
DiCavallo? Do you understand your responsibilities holding this license?
Yes,
You do?
yes.
You have any questions for this board?
No.
Okay, questions or comments from the commission? Move for approval by Commissioner Howe, seconded by Commissioner Donahue. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Mr. DiCarvalho,
Carvalho.
right? All
Yes,
right, I did
okay.
it right, okay.
Thank you.
You're all set. Good
Mr.
luck.
DiCavallo, I'll have your license for you tomorrow morning if you like,
Okay. I need a pay now
or next week.
or next week. All right.
All right, thank you.
I'm all set?
Next week.
No, I'm all set. All set. Or need a wait?
Yeah, you're all set.
Okay, thank you.
Proceeding with the application for a special one-day license to dispense wines only. Steve Siverson, President of the Arts League of Lowell, for an arts reception, look up, down, and all around at 307 Market Street for Thursday, April the 18th, from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m.
Good evening. State your name for the record.
Hello, Steve Severson.
Steve, how are you?
Pretty good.
What's going on?
Same old thing, another art show.
Motion by Commissioner McCarthy, seconded by Commissioner Krieger. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Steve, good job.
Thank you.
Proceeding with number 3, we have a request by a licensee from earlier this year, House Bear Brewing LLC, 25 Story Ave, Newbury, Port, Mass. This is Carl Hirschfeld, manager of record, and Elizabeth Borges, the LLC manager. She is present. A farmer winery, looking for additional dates on their farmer winery license to sell wine at the farm market premises at 250 Jackson Street, mill number 5, the 4th floor, for Sundays, April the 14th, April the 28th, May the 12th, May the 26th, 2019. The hours for the farm market would be 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. each Sunday, and the original license had been approved January 10th.
Good evening. State your name for the record.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Borges.
How are you tonight, Elizabeth?
I'm well. How are you?
Very good, thank you. So we're just looking for additional dates on what you already have, correct?
Yeah, it's the same season. She just extended the season by, 2 months and offered us more dates.
How's business over there?
Pretty good.
Very good?
Yeah.
All right, questions or comments from the board? Approved by Commissioner McCarthy, seconded by Commissioner Howe. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Elizabeth, good luck with the extra dates.
Great. I have one more question.
Sure.
Since we were already approved for this season and we paid a fee, we were wondering if there was any chance of waiving a fee for additional days. We were hoping not to pay another $50 for those 4 dates.
So moved by Commissioner Krieger, seconded by Commissioner Howe. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed?
Thank
You're
you.
all set, Elizabeth.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Proceeding with applications for special events permit for amplification of sound. We have Louis Silveria of the Holy Ghost Society at 65 Village Street, a sound system for band public address, this for the summer of 2019, at the outdoor grounds at Holy Ghost Park, the months of May, June, July, August, September, Sunday to Wednesday, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m., Thursday to Saturday, 10 a.m. to 12 midnight. This is in accordance with the city's ordinance.
Good evening. State your name for the record.
Louis Silvera?
How are you, Louis?
Good.
Very good. Another year over at Holy Ghost, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, Captain Hodgson, any issues with this license?
None whatsoever.
Thank you very much. Questions or comments from the board?
Mr. Chairman, I
Commissioner
just want,
Dunning.
is this an expanded number of days a week, or has it been 7 days a week in the past years?
No, this is pretty much same schedule.
It's not expanded from last year's number of days? No?
No. We just might have an additional bike weekend, but no. No.
No,
it's
okay.
Basically, the
All
same.
right, thank you.
What's the wish of the body? Move approved by Commissioner Krieger, seconded by Commissioner Donahue. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Louis, good luck with the events.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a nice night.
Proceeding with the applications for special events permit for amplification of sound, we have Vinnie Bugnassi, who is here on behalf of the Wat Lao of New England Temple. It's looking for a sound system for the Lao New Year celebration 2019 for Sunday, April the 14th, 2019, from 12 noon to 6 p.m. This would be the fence-enclosed grounds of the temple at 45 Bernier Street. Also, Vinnie has applied in anticipation of the annual fundraising festival to be held in July. There are 2 dates, Saturday, July 6th, 12 noon to 8 p.m., and Sunday, July 7th, 12 noon to 8 p.m., also for a sound system for their annual fundraising festival.
Okay. State your name for the record, sir.
Vinay Bunyasi.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Very
Thanks.
good. Have you held this license before, Vinnie?
No, never. First time?
Do you understand your responsibilities with this license?
Yes.
You do?
Yes.
Captain Hodgins, do you have any issues with us granting this license?
No.
Thank you very much. Questions or comments from the board? Move approval by Commissioner McCarthy, seconded by Commissioner Krieger. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Good luck with your events.
Okay.
Be safe.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Ryan.
Proceeding with number 5 on our meeting agenda, we have an application by an entity known as EBN Auto Sales, Inc., Edward Bu Nassif, President, for transfer of secondhand motor vehicles license, Class 2, license number 758-B. From the licensee of record, Cayman Auto Brokers LLC, Edward Bu Nassif, manager. Previously, Michael Kamad was the manager of the LLC. This is for the premises at 165 Cushing Street, which is an open lot of approximately 6,375 square feet with office trailer, 36 feet by 11 feet.
State your name for the record, sir.
Edward Bonasif, good evening.
Good evening, how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Very good. Edward, now, you say you're looking for a transfer here, but you've created your own entity in your own, at this point, is that correct?
I bought the business as Raymond Auto Broker, but when I came to get the license from the city, I spoke with Mr. Brian, and he told me I have to fill out application even if I bought the business. And
But have you created your own business? And are you just looking for a transfer to Cayman Auto Brokers?
transfer the name also, if it's from Cayman to EBN Auto Sales.
So if he wants to do that.
It's still the same business.
It's still the same thing, even though he has created his own, we can still do it that way.
If, and you, upon view of the papers,
Yeah.
Which has been submitted, he properly filed with the Secretary of State's Office Corporations Division
Right.
to become the LLC manager for the licensee of record to date
Cayman.
is Cayman Auto Brokers.
Right, yep.
But now, rather than have that matter before you on an application to show that he is now the new LLC manager for the current licensee of record, he's looking to have that license, which he presently is the LLC manager, but not approved by the License Commission as such, as LLC manager, to intending to just have a transfer to a new corporate entity, which would be known as EBN Auto Sales, Inc., which is also filed with the Secretary of State's office, and he is the sole officer and director.
So Edward, tell us, what do you want to do? Do you want it in as the transfer, or as your new corporation here that you formed?
If it's possible under the new corporation, it will be fine. I'm doing same kind of business.
Well, I understand that,
Yeah.
but it's just some legal documents that need to be transferred here. If you're looking for a transfer, then we'll go through with the transfer. If you're looking to put this under a new entity, then it's a different matter. Do you understand that?
Yes,
Okay, so what would you like us to do?
I put it under the new,
Under the brand-new entity?
yes.
So I guess the point in my discussions with Mr. Busov Nassif is that if it had been a transfer, then he wouldn't have to pay an additional license fee. But under the circumstances which you're deciding is that he will pay a license fee on issuance of
And
the
you
EBN
understand that,
license.
right?
Yes,
That you're going to be paid that extra,
Yes.
right? Because it would have been easier on the other end, but you want to do it this way?
Yes, I'm fine.
All right,
I'm fine with that.
That's fine. I have no problem with that. You have any questions or comments from the board for Mr. Nassif?
I have one
Commissioner
comment.
Donahue?
I remember when this license was issued before, I took a ride by Cushing Street. Took a ride by Cushing Street again today, and that yard could use a good cleanup. It
I'm
needs-
trying. and
Well, that's what we were promised a year and a half ago. And I look out on, I think it's Rock Street or Willie Street. There's a nice duplex across the street, and they're looking over on a mess there. So I would just advise you to please.
Thank you. No, I will keep up, and hopefully I will clean it way better than it was.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
How
Thank you.
much time will that take for you to do that? To clean up that spot?
I already did, and it'll probably take me another week, like, to make it nicer. And now Sprint is here, I can put some mulch and make it looks like a property.
So if
now.
I go by there in 2 weeks and it's still not, I'm going to bring you in front of this board again, and we're not going to be happy,
Sure.
all right? But you're promising me you're going to be doing that, right?
I promise you.
All right, I believe you.
Thank you.
All right. Wish of the body. Move for approval by Commissioner McCarthy, seconded by Commissioner Krieger. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Wish you the best of luck in your new business, okay?
Thank you very
You're
much.
welcome.
I
Have a good
appreciate
night.
it. Have a good night.
You as well.
Thank you.
Commission will now proceed with number 6 on our meeting agenda is the application by Pedro Wireless Services Corp., Pedro Cruz Garcia, President, for a secondhand articles license for premises at 163 East Merrimack Street. The license year expires April 30th, 2019, and renewal is effective May 1st, 2019.
State your name for the record. State your name for the record.
Pedro.
How you doing, Pedro?
Good, good, good.
Good? Do you understand English?
This a little bit.
A little bit?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is my wife. My wife's
Your wife's here?
yes.
You brought her along? She's
Yes.
telling you what to do?
Yeah.
All right, you're a smart man, you know that? Smart man. Paperwork looks all, so we're just renewing, right? Okay. Questions or comments? Nope. Move for approval by Commissioner Donahue, seconded by Commissioner Krieger. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Pedro, keep up the good work, all right? Listen to
Yeah,
your
yeah.
wife, all right?
Yeah, that's good.
All right, attaboy.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, just in terms of the license fee is $35. The license to be issued presently would be for the balance of the month of April, basically. And then it would be effective May 1st. The new license fee would be due at that time for renewal.
That's fine. That's fine.
All set?
Seven on our meeting agenda, we have a hearing on the allegation of misconduct discharged by Raymond Kelly Richardson, Superintendent of Police, dated February 20th, 2019, against the licensee known as The Last Safe, Inc., doing business as The Last Safe and Deposit, 160 Merrimack Street, Timothy Regan, manager.
Assistant City Solicitor LaGrassa, would you like to say something beforehand?
Yes, so Attorney Hardigan reached out to the law department this afternoon on this particular hearing, indicating that he would be requesting continuance. The reason for that basically was there were some audio recordings that were provided to the commission by the Lowell Police Department in support of their allegations, and those were only turned over to Attorney Hardigan this morning. So he did not have an opportunity to review them in advance of tonight's hearing. So more or less, that's the basis for the request for continuance.
Sure.
Based on the law department's review, there doesn't appear to be any issue with granting a continuance.
Counselor Hardigan, is that true?
That is, Mr. Chairman, and had I got it, but unfortunately, my schedule, I didn't get back to the office till about 2 o'clock. And so, although I had an opportunity to queue them up, I certainly had no opportunity to speak with my client. I feel compelled that I should.
Understood. Questions or comments from the board? Motion from the chair to schedule this complaint for our next scheduled meeting. Seconded by Commissioner Krieger.
If I
All
may,
in favor?
Mr. Chairman, I potentially have a conflict with the 11th. It's
You
not a
put-
hard conflict, but I mean, it's not going to be confirmed until probably the 9th or the 10th. I'm trying to get down to Georgia,
Going to Georgia?
Augusta.
Good for you. Can you,
And I got about a 50-50 shot on that, so I don't want to represent to the board that I'm not here. I'm okay on the 14th, but my sense is it's probably to give a hard date of the following meeting.
let's follow the process then, right now. Let's schedule it for 2 weeks. If you do have a problem with that, make contact with Attorney LaGrassa.
I'll do
We'll
that.
take it from there.
I'll do that.
All right?
Yep.
So the motion was from the chair, was seconded by Commissioner Howe. Schedule for the next meeting. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Next on the agenda.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Just a brief note for the viewing public and as well as people here in the chambers. Procedure will be changing just a bit as it pertains to complaints. Process we'll be following is that the captain will read the complaint into the record, present the case to the board. At that time, the defense will have the time to make their case, and the board will, if the council would like to ask questions, they would go through the board. If I deem that the question is suitable to be answered, we'll do so. If not, I will tell you so. And at that point, we'll make a decision. Obviously, you'll have the right to appeal, as you well know. All right, but that's the new policy. And when we let Ryan read the complaint, Captain Hodgson, you'll read the complaint into the record. All right?
Proceeding with number 8 on our meeting agenda, we have the hearing scheduled on the allegation of misconduct as charged by Raymond Kelly Richardson, Superintendent of Police, dated February the 26th, 2019, against the licensee known as The Last Save, Inc., doing business as The Last Safe and Deposit, 160 Merrimack Street. Timothy Regan, manager.
Captain Hodgson, can you read the complaint, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. On February 23rd, 2019, members of the Lowell Police Special Investigations Section, headed by Supervisor in charge of the unit, Lieutenant Stephen Coyle, conducted alcohol compliance checks at the Last Safe and Deposit at 160 Merrimack Street in Lowell. Upon arrival at approximately 11:51 p.m., detectives assigned to the SIS unit entered the establishment and found several fire and code violations upon entering the establishment, as well as underage patrons. The following was observed by Lieutenant Stephen Coyle. The stairway to the bar was impassable, completely blocking the entrance and egress that would cause an extreme safety hazard. He also observed the bar was over capacity with approximately 120 to 150 patrons inside the bar. The capacity is 99. And he also observed and confirmed that no employees during this investigation were checking the identification of account patrons entering the establishment. During their time in there, detectives observed and identified 8 individuals who were under the age of 21 inside the establishment. 6 of those underage patrons did not possess a proper ID, and 2 underage patrons possessed a fake ID. 4 underage patrons fled the bar. The detective collected their IDs, 3 of which were out-of-state driver's licenses, which are unacceptable forms of identification to enter an establishment in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
Thank you, sir. Would you like to bring up Lieutenant Coyle for any questioning?
Sure.
Lieutenant, if you could state your name for the record, sir.
Lieutenant Stephen Coyle, Lowell Police Department.
Captain Hodgson, go right ahead.
Lieutenant, can you tell us what your specific assignment was?
On that night, my assignment was to do alcohol compliance checks at the downtown establishments.
And that was also with members of your unit?
Yes.
Okay. Do you recall how many members of the unit were with you?
There was, I believe, 6 of us plus an attachment of 6 other detailed officers.
When you arrived at approximately 11:51 p.m., could you tell the board what you specifically observed upon arrival?
When I arrived at 11:51 p.m., I pulled up and parked out front. There was a line outside waiting to get in. I entered the street-level door to the establishment, and the establishment is in the downstairs, what I would call a basement. So you have to go down a flight of stairs into the main door of the establishment. That hallway was completely filled with patrons or people waiting to get in the establishment. You could not get in or out of the establishment. I had to force my way through that line and, pardon me, bumping into these people trying to get into the front door. I immediately went into the bar. It was packed, and it was shoulder to shoulder, and I made my way to the bar and identified myself to Mr. Kelleher to explain what I was there for.
Could you just tell us about that conversation with Mr. Kelleher?
I just showed Mr. Kelleher my Lowell Police badge. I've had interaction with Mr. Kelleher before. I asked him to come. He was serving drinks as a bartender. I asked him to come to the other side of the bar to speak with me about the crowd and what was going on. We had a conversation about I did not see a doorman when I came inside. He pointed out the doorman to me. I asked him what his capacity was. He said it was 99. I believed it to be 120 to 150. I asked the doorman what the capacity that he thought had come through the door. He said 100. Mr. Kelleher said 99. I will say that Mr. Kelleher was polite and compliant through the whole interaction. The only disagreement we had was how many people were in the establishment. I asked him if he had any the checklist, the compliance checklist, the before and after checklist that you have to do to open your establishment. He said he didn't need it because he was at 99. I said he did because he was at, I believed he was over 100. So that was a compliant conversation. And then I then directed the detectives to check IDs of people inside the bar. People were leaving the bar as soon as they realized that the police were inside the bar. People were leaving the bar. People went out the back door. They were stopped. They were underage. They weren't 21 or over. They were ID'd and identified. Same thing at the front door. And I believe there was 12 people stopped. 4 people fled before they could be positively ID'd. We had the IDs that we believed to be fake. And we did stop one individual leaving the establishment, going up the stairs, carrying an open Bud Light bottle, and he was 19 years old.
Did you have a conversation with any of the doormen?
Yes, I had a conversation with the doorman, and he explained to me that he thought the load capacity was 100.
Did you ask him if they had a clicker for a count?
Yes, he did not have a clicker, and he was not, to me, I don't believe he could keep count without the clicker.
Okay, did you ask him about, at any point during this incident, about the minors in the establishment that you identified? Did you have any conversation with any of the doormen regarding any of the minors you found inside the establishment? Or did you bring that to anybody's attention?
I don't think I reflected with the doorman after that load capacity count. I think all the conversation was Mr. Kelleher.
Is it fair to say during investigation that, according to your report, 6 individuals stated they had no identification on their person and was not carded?
I believe that is the fact, yes.
Okay, and fair to say that 2 out of those 6 stated they only had a UMass Lowell student ID on them?
I believe yes.
Okay, and also fair to say that 3 people that you identified had out-of-state driver's licenses?
Yes.
Do you recall which states they were from?
There's 1 from Connecticut, 2 from New Hampshire.
Okay. Okay. I have no further questions.
Thank you, Captain. Members of the commission, questions for Lieutenant Coyle? Commissioner Howe?
You indicated that you asked Mr. Kelleher about where the door employee was, and he pointed him out. So when he pointed him out, where was that individual standing?
When he pointed him out, he was at the door, but I didn't recognize him as a doorman when I came in.
So you had gone downstairs into the bar and were talking to Mr. Kelleher?
I went through the door, through the bar, to the actual bar where you would serve drinks, and talked to Mr. Kelleher over the bar, and asked him to come around and speak with me, which he did.
So then he pointed the door employee out?
Yeah, I explained that he was over capacity and he didn't know the count. I said, "Where's the doorman?" or something to that effect, and he
Right.
pointed the gentleman out.
And so you were able to see him, and he was at the door at that time?
Correct.
Upstairs?
Downstairs.
Downstairs?
Correct.
Okay. But you didn't see him when you were making your way through the crowd?
I saw him, but I didn't know he was the doorman because it didn't seem like he was doing anything other than talking.
Understood. Thank you.
Any further questions for Lieutenant Coyle? You said there was a line, Lieutenant?
There was a line outside on the
Outside?
street level, and there was a line in the stairway, sorry.
That's right.
In the
I just want to
stairway.
make, I'm kind of connecting with Commissioner Howe. I just want to make sure where the bouncer was. So basically, no bouncer at the front door to get down to the stairs, and then that's where the bouncer was taking IDs at the bottom of the stairs then?
I have no recollection of anybody being at the street level.
All right,
I
so where
watched
did you actually see the bouncer once Mr. Keller pointed him out to you?
down the bottom of the stairs, inside the bar, inside the establishment, if you were going in, to the right of the door.
The bottom of the stairs? Okay, so
Correct.
I know where you are, all right. Okay, that's fine. Any other questions for Lieutenant Coyle? Captain, anything else for Lieutenant?
Just 1 second.
Sure.
No further questions.
That'll be fine. Lieutenant, thank you for now. Counsel Hardigan? You sure do. You can just put him through the chair, that'd be great.
First question would be, if I suggested to the lieutenant that Colin Matthew, who was the fellow third in line there to the left, was the doorman that evening, whether or not he would recognize him.
Lieutenant, you can answer that question.
No, they both look alike to me. The 2 men with the beard both look like the gentleman that was standing to the right of the door.
Okay.
So I couldn't do it today.
Okay.
And I had a very brief conversation with him. He pointed him out. I asked him what the load capacity was. He told me 100, and then I talked to Mr. Keller through the whole thing.
That'll be fine. Counselor?
I'd also like to know the lieutenant's theory that an individual could not count patrons in and out of the bar without a manual clicker. I mean, I would think you'd be able to count 6 in, 2 out, I've got 4.
I'm not gonna allow that. You're talking about 100 people here. Your capacity's 99. If you're close to 99, you're not counting clicks, and you have people that are out in the sidewalk, shame on you. Next question.
I'd be interested on the lieutenant's theory as to if there's no one taking IDs at the bottom of the stairs, then why wouldn't the people's on the stairs just have rushed into the bar? I mean, I don't think you can have both. You can't have no one there and then a line up the stairs. I mean, to me, it's illogical. So just trying to clarify his memory as to whether or not there was someone at the bottom of the stairs controlling the entry into the premises.
I think he answered that by saying he didn't notice that one of those two gentlemen right there was the bouncer. So so if he wasn't there, if he didn't notice him there and taking IDs,
Then why was there a line on, my question is, why would there be a line on the stairs if there's no one at the bottom of the stairs deflecting entry?
I think his testimony also said that they were basically shoulder to shoulder in the place and looking at between 120 and 150 patrons. So, once again, I'll ask you to ask another question if you like.
Question is, why a physical count was not performed? I think the lieutenant said that there were 12 officers there. If in fact there's 150 people, seems to me that's 50% more than what the load capacity is. And if we've got 12 people there, I would think that would be a very simple task to say, you count these 12, you count these 10, and we come up with a number. I mean,
Mr. Hardigan, if you're an owner of an establishment and you know your capacity is 99, and you're approaching that number, and you know your place well enough, and we have a lieutenant of the Lowell Police Department saying that minimum there was 120 patrons, if not 150 patrons, I think that's a wide disparity.
I agree, that's the issue that I have. I mean, if it
So
was
I guess I'm taking Lieutenant Coyle's estimate, for, you know, I'm sure he's been in a lot of the establishments in Lowell and knows what the capacity is.
The other question I have is, besides the one individual who had the Bud Light on the stairs, were there any other of these minors observed in the possession of alcohol?
You can answer that question, Lieutenant.
No.
Anything further, Counselor?
Was the individual who had the alcohol on the stairs ever frisked to see if he had a Massachusetts identification?
If I can reflect from my report here, it says he had a fake Mass driver's license on him, and he said he was not carded at the time he entered.
I have nothing further of this, Lieutenant.
I'm sorry, sir?
Nothing further of the Lieutenant.
Okay. Do we have any questions for Mr. Kelleher? He's present. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Kelleher at this time? No? Commissioner Krieger? Yeah? Joe? No, you don't. Okay. All right, so we have, can I have a total of how many minors we actually had, or how many fake IDs, once again, Captain?
I believe there was a total of 12 minors, 4 fled, but we did confiscate their IDs, which were, I believe, a couple of them had out-of-state ones. I had to look at the report to determine which ones specifically had the out-of-state. And then we had 8 that were confirmed inside the bar that remained inside the establishment while they were conducting their compliance checks.
So if I go with Lieutenant Coyle's estimate of 120, that means 10% of the patrons in that bar were underage.
That's a fair estimate, yes.
Interesting.
I may add something.
Sure.
I was working that night, the downtown patrol supervisor. I went to this location, and I can confirm and corroborate upon my arrival that many people were leaving the establishment upon the detective's arrival to conduct a compliance check.
Okay. Ryan, what's our past history here with the Last Safe with the new ownership? Have we, any disciplinary measures taken by this board?
Yes, as a matter of fact, we have had some history with this licensee.
I'm not with the licensee, the establishment itself. I take it two different matters. I understand it's the same licensee, but under his leadership at this establishment, have we?
Well, the Last Safe has been the only licensee of record in recent years.
Yeah.
In terms of the, there was I wrote it down, I just don't have it with me, I'm sorry to say.
It's okay.
But it was several years ago when Timothy Regan, there was an incident with underage.
Okay.
Mr.
Commissioner
Chairman, yeah, I'm concerned that 10% of the patrons, roughly, had fake IDs, and are we being flooded with fake IDs? Do we have no way of checking IDs? Are we about to see a major problem here? Or is this just a glitch? I don't know. Does the fake ID and the failure to examine IDs, I mean, that sets a bad tone for the city as a whole. And we're not going to be able to enforce the age limits unless everybody's checking IDs and unless we start filtering out the fake IDs. I'm concerned about this.
Okay, my question is, this seems to be now, quote unquote, the hotspot for younger, 21 years old, just enough, 21 and older, fine. But there doesn't seem to be a way of tracking patrons coming in the door or assuming they have fake IDs or not. And I think it's difficult to debate, Counselor, that with Lieutenant Coyle and the detectives that were there that night, the number of underage drinkers. And really, for Lieutenant Coyle to say to this board that he didn't really, a bouncer or somebody there to check IDs, you should be able to notice them right then and there. And Lieutenant Coyle is saying that in fact did not happen. He can't even pick out between these two gentlemen who the bouncer was.
But I mean, now that I look at them, they're similar in.
Oh, I get it, but he didn't know they were bouncers. Lieutenant, let me ask you this, were they wearing a shirt that said the establishment's name? Did it say bouncer? Did it have some of those guys will have a black shirt with the security on the back of them? Anything like that?
I don't recall.
All right, so, I mean, we're now becoming a big boy bar here. Last Safe was a very quiet place, you'd have 50, 60 people there and fine. Now we're dealing with capacity issues, and we have nobody there who's checking IDs, because obviously close to 10% of the patrons in there that night were underage. That ain't right. So we're not doing something right, plain and simple. So we need to tighten this up. Mr. Keller, you can step up to the microphone, because I'd like to ask you, because you've been in this business a long time, Tim, and I'm surprised. I'm really quite surprised that something like this is
My
happening.
attorney will get mad, but I'll answer whatever you'd like.
I'd like to know why so many minors were in your establishment that night.
Okay. The doorman, Colin Matthews, was standing at the bottom of the door.
Yep.
That night was Winterfest.
Yep.
I specifically told him, make sure everybody is on point tonight.
Yep.
Make sure you have your count, okay?
Yep.
He tells me he had 99 people, and he stopped the door, and he does one for one.
Let's get back to my
All right,
first
it's not that
question.
hard. So 120 people, yes, were in the safe that night. I don't believe that's possible.
My first question
Okay,
is,
the first
why so many minors?
Because these miners' technology is better than us. It's a sad fact of life.
All right,
I know
let me go
these
back
ki-
even further than
I
that.
know
Why do
these-
we have out-of-state licenses being accepted?
So two of them were New Hampshire,
Right.
which is 5 miles away. When we get an out-of-state ID at the safe, we try and call him. Well, if you ask him, we'll tell you. We try and get a backup, a health card, something that says they're from the state of New Hampshire. The Connecticut ID with the girl, the lieutenant talked to Colin, and Colin's like, the girl gave me 2 other forms of identification from Connecticut. We are a college town. We have Division I college players. You just can't say no to everyone. We try and do the best.
I thought we weren't taking out-of-state licenses.
At the smokehouse, we do not take them. At the safe, it is a college bar. You would be telling 3/4 of the Division I athletes at UMass Lowell that are over 21 that they cannot come into your bar.
You're going to tell me you're going to tell that to Mr. Petrakis and Mr. Murphy as well at Dudley's and Shamrock? Because they're not doing it.
Dudley's and Shamrock absolutely did it. We all got in trouble. The smokehouse, Dudley's.
But they're not accepting IDs like that. Mr. Matthews, why don't you step up here?
Mr. John, I don't mean to be disrespectful.
No, you're not
but-
disrespecting me.
But they are, and they have in the past.
Well-
And look at, you guys have already sent out a letter about the pub crawls, that you know that every bar in the city can no longer be in the pub crawl because they all got caught. That includes Mr. Murphy and the Shamrock.
Right.
All right? The SAFE has, on the same 2 nights with the ABCC, the SAFE passed those compliance checks.
All right. Mr. Matthews, why don't you state your name for the record for 1 second? All right.
Colin Matthews.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Oh, good. Tell me where you were and where you're checking IDs and what location, because I'm thinking I'm at the last safe and I'm right at the front door. That's where I want to be to check IDs. You weren't there.
I was standing in the door frame at the bottom of the stairs.
Okay, you feel you have a good hold of IDs from that vantage point rather than right at the entrance?
Yes,
You do?
yes.
Okay. And what directive were you given by the management concerning out-of-state licenses?
That if it was from New Hampshire to get a backup, and just any out-of-state, always have a backup.
Right. Any state? So if somebody came in from California, as long as they
No,
had...
California.
And what is a backup? I'd like to know.
Military ID, passport, medical card, anything with their date of birth and the state they're from.
All right, so I'm wondering how many 21-year-old kids from Connecticut are carrying a passport.
Quite a few.
Quite a few, okay. All right, I'm not going to belabor this. Anything further from the commissioners?
Yeah, if we feel that there needs to be an exception because this is a college town, has anybody reached out to the delegation on Beacon Hill to say we need to change the rules? Or are we just making up the law as we go along?
You know what?
I mean, the law's the law. Sometimes the law is stupid, but shouldn't we try and fix it legally?
That, Mr. Krieger, may be a good segue to my contribution to this. I understand the board's concern and potentially the optics, but speaking to the law, I do not see where substantively this board can make a finding on 7 of the 8 individuals that are in there, because there is no state law that prohibits a minor being in an establishment. That is, unless they've either consumed or possessed. There is no local ordinance that would prohibit that. The only thing that comes close in your local regulations is 2.04, and that talks about instances where 18 to 20 are either targeted or there's a special event on there, which used to be done, down at, I forget the name, up above bar, the old creation of bar 74, or your local rule 216, which that talks about cover charges. And there's an age in there that says that you can't provide a cover charge for anyone under 13. So even assuming, for the sake of discussion, that there are 8 individuals in there and they're underaged, I think Lieutenant Coyle answered, I think, the pivotal question. Did any of the 12 officers observe 7 of those individuals possessing any alcohol? Now, that leaves us with the fellow on the stairs. He had a fake mass ID. This commission is all aware of, for lack of a better term, the safe haven of 13834 that says if, in fact, the commission factually determines, and obviously that would be to your discretion, that Colin did in fact ask this fellow for an ID, and he did in fact flash a Massachusetts ID. Again, 138, Section 34 restricts any penalty being assessed against the licensee. To your point, Mr. Krieger, do those laws make sense? I don't know. But in my profession, that's what we have to deal with.
Mr. LaGrasse, I'm going to let you chime in here.
So I obviously can't comment on whether the law as it stands is what it should be or shouldn't be. But what I can say is that under the current status of the law, General Law, Chapter 138, Section 34, talks about what forms of identification are permitted for determining whether or not somebody is 21 years old who wants to enter a bar. And those forms of identification are a Massachusetts driver's license, a Massachusetts liquor identification card, a Massachusetts identification card, a passport card, or a military identification card. And under the current status of the law, a licensee only has a defense if the licensee can affirmatively prove that prior to permitting the service, delivery, or possession of alcoholic beverages by a person, that one of these forms of identification was shown, examined, and reasonably relied upon.
So, examined. Do you guys have a wand of some sort to check the ID cards?
I can answer that. We used to. We spent a lot of money on those. But what we found is that they are completely ineffective. Because what happens is that the technology beats the scan, and what Mr. Kelleher would tell you is that the security or doormen become too reliant upon the scanners. So what they've done is put the money that they invested on that, put it aside, and relied upon these individuals that they employ and make as best as they can make a condition of employment that they check every single ID. I mean, Mr. Matthews would tell you that if he doesn't check an ID, he's without a job.
Now, do they collect the false IDs?
I'm not aware that they do, Mr. McCarthy, no.
That might be a good policy to start.
Pardon me?
It might be a good policy to start.
Lieutenant Coyle, did we confiscate any of those IDs that night? Captain Hodgson, you have those? Could we
Yes,
see
I
those?
have them.
Could I see those?
You know, Counselor, these guys run a good place, and they work very hard in their establishments. However, they come in front of us too often for the same things. Underage people in the bars drinking. They got to clean it up. It's their responsibility. We're here to listen, we're here to help out, but they have a responsibility to clean it up. I don't think that's happening.
These are the three fake ones.
I hear you, Mr. McCarthy, but, and again, I would defer to what Mr. Wynn's records show, but this last safe they've owned since 2013. This is the second time they've been before you in 6 years. And I know we've got another hearing coming up on the Village Smokehouse, but they've run that since 2005, 14 years. And by my count, they've been in front of this commission only 7 times. 2 of those positive findings have been overturned by the ABCC. The last time they were before this commission was October of 2016.
Counselor, I think you can get the message.
I do.
I think you can get the message we're trying to say to you, okay? I appreciate all your other, but you got to get the message we're sending.
Mr. Matthews, on these 3 out of state, you received either a passport or a military ID?
Yes, I received a backup.
Thank you. Commissioner Howe?
I have some questions for the doorman on the, what was the reason that you collected or you checked the IDs at the bottom of the stairs as opposed to the top of the stairs?
It was February, it was cold.
Is there a little area inside, or you open the door and you just go downstairs?
You open the door and you take a slight right and then walk down the stairs.
Because I have a lot of concern about the fact that there was a lack of egress, and if there was a fire there or an emergency, it's a very extremely dangerous condition. So were you at all concerned with the just glut of people in that stairway?
Yes, I keep them all to the left of the stairs, so that way people coming in and out can go up and down on the right-hand side.
Okay, but you heard the officer testify that that wasn't the case. When he came in, he had to make his way through the crowd.
I was staying at the bottom of the stairs. I watched him walk down the stairs.
Thank you.
I have a question for the captain.
Captain? Commissioner
Sir,
Donahue?
Captain, the mass IDs, have they been determined to be real and, borrowed by a sister or brother, or are these fake IDs?
When I understand, the college students are purchasing these IDs online.
They look pretty good.
Yes. They keep, from my understanding, they keep the exact information, who they are, their name, date of birth, and they just change the year of their birth, the year they were born by a couple of years.
Okay.
So that way, everything else is the same.
So if you've got a mass ID that says as good as this, you're basically free to go in,
No, it's absolutely true. Mr. Keller brings up a good point. It seems like we're always one step behind in technology. I mean, those IDs are pretty good. And if I was the doorman, I gotta be quite frank, I'd probably let them in. I just don't, we're banging our heads against a wall here. You know what? And I'm not blaming Mr. Matthews. If those 3 IDs came to me, I'd probably let them go. And if they go through a machine, depending on how old the technology is, they're gonna say it's okay. And do I think minors were there drinking? I absolutely do. But, Mr. Kelleher and the rest of the management over there, it's a tough spot to be in, where it's a 50-50 shot. So you can go out and buy a $3,000 machine to test licenses. 6 months later, you're gonna need a $5,000 machine just to keep up with the technology. I would like to bring something forward to the ABCC on some direction with this. I really would, Adam, because if I'm the owner and that license came in front of me, I'd let that kid in, no doubt about it.
So, I mean, the law department can assist License Commission with reaching out to the ABC for.
And I'm sure it's happening throughout the country, right?
My understanding is it's
They're all coming from China, is that where they're coming from, Captain? I mean,
Yes, that's correct. A lot of the kids are purchasing them through China.
Captain, were these licenses collected by the police?
Yes,
Okay, not by the establishment?
correct. The detectives collected them when they determined they were underage.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, my question is, what about real ID? When real ID comes online, are they going to be able to fake it? Which means it's not real ID? Is this a big federal scam, real ID?
can we find that out too, because of the new real IDs that are coming through, if in fact those can be duplicated? I mean,
The law department can certainly do some research and see what information is available on that, and possibly what information the ABC has on
I'm
these
only
matters.
speaking as the chairman of this board, and we're here to make sure that, the community's safe. We have 12 minors drinking in an establishment, that's a problem. But I'm looking at it from Mr. Kelleher's perspective as the manager. I'm trying to make as much business, though I do still have a problem with the capacity, and I'm not gonna let that one go. But these IDs, I have a real problem suspending somebody's license when an ID like that comes across to me. I just do. I don't want to take money out of their pockets. And I don't know how the other commissioners feel, but I just have a tough time saying, yeah, it's suspended, okay. We don't even know if these licenses are good, bad, ugly. I mean, I don't know. I think it's a very precarious situation that the board's being put into to make a judgment like that. I'm only speaking to you, Adam.
I know.
I apologize.
And I would just suggest that these are all factors that the board can weigh in its deliberations and coming to a decision.
Okay. Any other members have any other comments? Commissioner Donahue?
Well, I agree with you. These licenses are great, but this is a problem, and it's going to be a problem in this city as long as UMass is expanding it. And I grew up here in Lowell, and I'm sure we can all tell the stories about a long time ago.
Well,
How some kids sought out ways to get into bars.
Sure, no question.
That's 40, 50 years ago. So I think it's an ongoing problem that we're going to have to expect more from the bars, because there's gonna be more and more kids, as he says, college students that are going into these bars. They've gotta be more vigilant, and I think we have to pay more attention and talk to the state in regard to the false IDs, fake IDs. Thank you.
So Adam, I mean, is there any way that we can communicate to the ABCC the situation that, you know, I'm sure other cities and towns in the state are going through, and what's the process? How do we, how do we make a determination of something like this?
So, I mean, it's something the law department would have to look into. I guess we would start with see what guidance is already
Okay.
out there from the ABCC. I'm sure that they're
We'd
attuned
appreciate
to
that.
these
I would
issues and-
definitely appreciate that. I'm sure Captain Hodgkin, Lieutenant Coyle as well. I mean, Lieutenant, if you saw those IDs. Oh, sure, go ahead.
I applaud Mr. Keller for running a bar downtown. I wouldn't want to do it myself. There was two 18-year-olds in that bar with no ID. 18.
See, I don't think they're checking that.
No ID.
No ID. So sure, a few of them had IDs that might be fake, that might look real. But there was two sisters, twin sisters, 18 years old, with no ID.
You asked them for their ID, correct? Or did the other, what detective?
Detective King stopped one 18-year-old with no identification on her inside the establishment. Detective D'Angelo stopped another, her sister, 18 years old, her twin sister, no ID on her.
No ID at all?
No ID.
Okay. I missed that, I apologize. Did anybody else grab that as? All right, I didn't get that, at preliminary.
It's not my report.
This isn't your report?
No, I'm saying the material I got.
Those are the bartenders' girlfriends.
Yeah, okay.
21 June 7th.
They're 18.
They're 20.
But I mean, that's, again, that's not in the material.
I'm sorry, I
that
didn't
was
hear the
provided to me.
conversation between, what just happened?
The reference that the lieutenant had,
Yeah?
I have no information regarding that. So it's similar, I think, to the,
Captain, does Mr. Hardigan have this information in front of him?
whose report?
I'm not sure what he has with him, sir.
It's my report. 160 Merrimack Street, page 4,
Attorney Lagassa, does,
with the list of the 12 kids, 4 and 5, no ID, born in 98.
I don't have any, see, it's all redacted.
So that,
And it says no identification, so it says there's two sisters with.
so I checked that. They're not 18, but they're not of age, and they had no ID.
okay, hold on. Were they 18?
They
or
were
they're not?
born 6/1/98.
They're both 20.
20.
Did they have an ID?
Negative. In this
No
report
ID.
I wrote, I'm not going to say their name because they're under 21.
That's right.
Their date of birth is 6/1/98.
Yep.
Stopped by Detective King, no ID.
No ID.
On 6/1, this other child, her twin sister, 6/1/98, stopped by Detective D'Angelo, no ID. We found, also, I'd like to reflect on something, we found no passports on any children.
I think Mr. Kelleher can address the age of these two individuals.
Come on up. Sure.
The two girls are well known to us. We allow them to come into the bar. They do not drink. Their birthday, I think, is June 7th, not June 1st. Actually, one of them goes out with one of the bartenders.
And how old are they?
And they're 20 years old, but they'll be 21 in June. And they came and talked to me, and we allow them to go in because they're going to be 21 and they don't drink, and the door guys know to watch them. They're two girls. They're both about 5 feet tall. Very noticeable. They are twins.
Boy, you're playing with fire. That to me is just insane.
I mean, I can understand your point, but I don't think it's fire when you actually talk to people and understand them and talk to them and
So
understand.
someone's keeping an eye on those two 20-year-old girls with a capacity of 99, and they're sipping on Shirley Temples.
They don't drink anything when they come in. They don't have anything in their hands. And as for the other thing, when you guys talk about it, if the city would maybe prosecute someone, then maybe these kids would learn.
Well, Mr. Killer, believe me,
Okay.
we're not here to take money out of your pocket.
All right.
And I think all of us have stated that.
Right.
Those IDs are good.
Oh, they're unbelievable.
I hear you. you know, and I get it. But, and it's not illegal, Mr. Hardigan brings up a good point. They're 20 years old, they ain't going to your bar. Word gets around that you have people underage, and you get to a point, well, we'll let you in, we'll let you in, we'll let you in, but you can't drink?
No, we make
You
an
might
excep-
you might as well
we
have
make an exception.
99 people under 21 in there just sitting around, everybody having a ginger ale and a Coke.
We make an exception for the two girls because they.
So
go
they're
over
the only
bartenders.
two that are underage that
Yes.
go into your establishment? Is
Yes,
that what you're telling me?
anyone else that has told the police that they didn't have an ID, I don't believe, I know Colin carded everyone that night because I talked to him. And as far as I know, the police never searched anybody looking for an ID. And when the lieutenant says no one had a passport in their possession, as far as I know, out of every person that was carded, and they did card the entire crowd, not one person was patted down. So if
But
so if
Lieutenant
a
Coyle-
person says they don't have an ID, they write down they don't have an ID. No one says to them, can I check your pockets? The answer is they don't.
Lieutenant Cole, those two 20-year-old patrons, did they have alcohol on their, were they drinking at that time?
I don't recall speaking to the 20-year-old patrons, but from my detectives, the information that they passed, because they had no identification, was incorrect, and I had to use a law enforcement search engine to find their exact information, and then I ran them through the registry to look at the picture to confirm the name and the address, and that's how I got this information. My detectives then confirmed from the picture that that was who they stopped. They were 20 years old, and I don't know whether they were drinking, I can't say.
The
And I'm not here to
detectives-
take any money out of Mr. Keller's
No,
pocket, but
listen,
that,
we understand that, but did they smell any alcohol in their breath, anything like that? I mean,
it's
they
not reflected,
intoxicated,
it's not
inebriated?
reflected in my report at
Okay,
this
I
time.
understand. All right. All right. Do you want to end with something here, Counselor? Or are you good?
No, I mean, I think I'm good. I've raised the points as far as,
Okay.
I mean, we've got
All right.
the health safety issues, and then,
Right.
I mean, it's an issue of whether or not that the fellow on the stairs flashed an ID. I think that's the factual decision the court, or the commission has to make.
Mr. Chairman, can I just add something
Sure,
regarding
Ken.
disciplinary action? Now, what we do with UMass Lowell Police, when we positively identify any of their students underage and established, which we did that evening,
Yeah.
we notify them, and the school does take disciplinary action against them. That's been our past practice.
What type of disciplinary action?
I believe it through the dean of students, they could be placed on probation if they get in trouble any other time.
Yeah.
We do that a lot also with our off-campus parties.
Yeah.
So we do partner with UMass Lowell. I personally notified the deputy chief of, he confirmed who were students that were underage for me, and they take upon internal disciplinary action. We prefer that versus prosecution. We find that a lot of times it gets just dismissed at court cost. And they are college kids. We look at that. We do have empathize with them. They're college kids.
Yeah.
So we go through that preferred method sometimes so they don't have a record. And it's just done internally through the college, which we do with a working relationship with them, and it's been working.
No, well, that's a positive. That's good. Any commissioners, any further thoughts? Would the board like to take any action at this time? Commissioner Krieger?
Yeah, I am concerned about the overpacking in the block stairwell. And I think we need to make the point that that's not acceptable. I would propose that we have 2 days suspended.
Both served? Both served?
No, suspended
2 days suspended, both
Yes.
held in abeyance?
in advance.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Dunn?
I agree primarily with Commissioner Krieger. I'd like to just make it a little more formal, that we find that in fact there was an impassable stairway and there was crowding. So we're finding responsibility as to those 2 counts. And I think on the 8 counts of sale of alcohol beverage to minors, I think we can only find that there was one person that was in possession of the alcohol in the bar.
Yep.
I think the state law and my discussions with both the police and the city solicitor have indicated we have a problem. if someone's in the bar, but they're not in possession, and the police don't see either them holding the beer or the bartender passing it over, the state law is not gonna back us up on a finding of those. So I'd say there's only the one count that would be, we find of a minor in possession in the bar.
Are you making any motion on that complaint, Commissioner Donahue?
I would, that it be amended, well, the finding of the board be that we only find one violation of the sale of alcohol, a disturbance or illegality of any kind, whether it was possession by one of the Bud Light bottle.
Okay, and does your motion state
would-
any disciplinary action with that?
I would concur as to the discipline with the Commissioner Krieger.
All right, the
2
two
days.
two different complaints. So Commissioner Krieger concerning the overcapacity has made a motion for 2 days. Both of those days would be held in abeyance. The other one is about the one count of the minor.
Minor.
What is your motion to that count, to that complaint?
I would also go with 2 days held in abeyance.
Both of those held in, okay.
Yes.
Let's first take Commissioner Krieger's. Do I have a second on that?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Howard. Any further discussion on that matter?
That is. there's no-
All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? That motion is a 2 days suspension, Ryan. Both of those days will be held in abeyance. Commissioner Krieger, do you have a timetable, 6 months or 1 year on those abeyances?
1 year.
1 year. Seconded by Commissioner McCarthy. All right, and now the other complaint was the one count of a minor in possession. The motion's been made by Commissioner Donahue that'd be 2 days suspension, with both of those days held in abeyance as well. Before I ask for a second, Assistant Solicitor LaGrassa, all right, so we're dealing with 2 different complaints. We have 4 days held in abeyance. So if this establishment comes before us again it would have to be a different type of complaint? Or if, I'm driving at here?
Any subsequent violation could trigger a
Any
suspension held
subsequent,
in
right?
abeyance. Yes.
Okay, I understand that. Okay, that's fine. All right, do I have a second on Commissioner Donahue's motion?
I second it. I'd like to speak on it.
Seconded by Commissioner Howe, and discussion by Commissioner Howe.
I find that there is substantial evidence that there was a minor that was served alcohol and that he was not carded. So I'm going to support the motion.
Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Thank you. Thank you for being here and taking your time.
I would just like to recommend to Mr. Keller that he really watches this staircase, putting people on the staircase. If you ever had an emergency, you're leaving yourself wide open there. Gotta keep those-
We're discussing it. I can tell you this, it's the second time it's happened in 5 years at the last safe. My attorney knows there's reasons why it happened that night, but it won't happen again.
Thank you.
I think it'd be wise to watch that.
Very good. Lieutenant Coyle, I want to thank you very much for your attendance.
Thank you, Lieutenant.
Sit down, guys. We have one
Got
minute.
it, all right.
Commissioner, now proceed with number 9 on our meeting agenda. With regard to a hearing on the allegation of misconduct as charged by Raymond Kelly Richardson, Superintendent of Police, dated February 26, 2019, against the licensee known as the Middle Street Village Inc., doing business as the Village Smokehouse, 92-98 Middle Street. Alan F. Kaplan, manager.
Captain Hodgen, read the complaint, please.
Yes, sir. We're here tonight also regarding two violations that occurred on February 24th, 2019, at approximately 12:18 a.m. at the Smokehouse located 98 Middle Street, City of Lowell. At that time, under the direction of Lieutenant Coyle, supervisor of the Special Investigation Section, conducting alcohol compliance checks, one of his detectives of the unit. Upon arrival, a 19-year-old male was observed drinking a 12-ounce Corona beer while waiting in line to enter the Village Smokehouse to the left of the establishment. This male was subsequently placed under arrest for minor possession of alcohol and public drinking. Detectives went inside the establishment to conduct the alcohol compliance check, subsequently arrested a 19-year-old female inside the establishment for minor possession of alcohol, resisting arrest and hindering investigations. Detectives observed this female, who appeared to be underage, drinking an alcoholic beverage. The female immediately ran to the bathroom, was apprehended by a female detective, Detective D'Angelo of the Special Investigations Section. This female did have a fake Massachusetts driver's license on her person. Also, while conducting a compliance check, they also observed a 19-year-old male who was underage in possession of a beer. This male also had a out-of-state Maine's driver's license that appeared to be fake. Detectives also found a third person, an 18-year-old female. This female only had a UMass ID on her person. Those are basically the facts of the violations of that evening.
Is Sergeant Perrin here, Captain Hodgen?
Sergeant Perrin is not here.
Is anyone here in his stead, or?
Lieutenant Coyle is here to offer testimony.
Okay. Do you want to ask him any questions, sir?
Sure. Lieutenant, on that night, could you tell us what your objectives were or your assignment was?
My name is Lieutenant Stephen Coyle. I'm assigned to the Lowell Police Department Special Investigations Unit. On that night, I was assigned to alcohol compliance checks in the downtown area. On 2/24/19, at approximately 12:16, I approached the front of the smokehouse. There was about 40 people in line. Sergeant Perrin was in my cruiser behind me, I was driving, he was directly behind me in the passenger seat. He stated, "Stop, stop, let me out. There's a kid drinking a beer in the line." He then exited my car, made the arrest, and informed me that the kid was drinking a Corona beer, and he was, I believe, 19 years old. He wrote the arrest report on that night.
Okay, and could you tell us where that underage male was drinking?
So,
correlation or reference to the smokehouse?
The front door, the line went left and right. He was probably about 10 people down to the left. The line went more to the right if you're looking at the building. He was probably 10 people down on the left. I pulled over and parked, and Sergeant Perrin took care of that.
Okay, and once that person was placed on the arrest, did you have any conversation with anybody at the door who was an employee of the establishment?
After Sergeant Perrin left my cruiser, I parked, I exited the car, I walked up to the front door, I proceeded to the front door through the center of the line, which went right and left, and I stopped and talked to the man at the door. The man was Alan Kaplan. I asked for the crowd manager. He said he was it. I asked him his load capacity. He said it's 402. I said, what are you at? I think he was at three, it was well under. It was threes, in the low threes. I asked him to see his liquor license, and then we proceeded to the back, just past the bar where the liquor license was on the wall. Then I did ask the detectives to check patrons for any underage drinking, and Detective D'Angelo stopped a young man who had an alcoholic beverage in his hand, and actually, she found a young girl that fled, and she was underage. She was 19. She was in possession of alcoholic beverages that she fled to the bathroom. She went in and got her out of the bathroom, placed her under arrest. She was transported to the station, and then there was another gentleman, I can't pronounce it, Elos Licerio, thank you, was asked if he had a fake Maine ID. He said, "This is fake, I'll leave." She confiscated the ID, and his real date of birth was 4/10/99. He said he was not asked for any other form of identification after displaying the fake identification. Another young girl, Caitlin Brown, was found Victoria Rouleau was found. It was determined that she was Caitlin Brown. She had an ID that she had found at the UMass and was using that to get in the establishment.
Lieutenant, if I showed the IDs that you submitted to our evidence unit, would you be able to recognize or identify them along with the old police evidence card?
I believe so. So this is an evidence bag that we use in the Special Investigations Unit. This is an evidence tag that I filed, that I filled out. This was sealed probably until tonight when the captain opened it up with these 3 IDs. This is the gentleman that presented the main ID. And then Emma Thompson. This ID, I believe, was confiscated at the booking window.
If I can,
after
I'd
the
just
arrest.
suggest that we try to refrain from using the individuals' names.
Okay. And then this ID was the young girl that said she found it at UMass Lowell.
That's fine.
Lieutenant, in regards to searching people for IDs, could you explain to the board here why sometimes it may be difficult to do a complete search inside a liquor establishment, especially with a large crowd?
I rely on my detectives to do a good job, and they're very thorough. If a child says they used a fake ID and they pat them down, we can only check for weapons or any forms of what the problem is there. If they don't have anything that feels like an ID, they're not going to fish through their pockets.
Fair to say they're not going to also fish down if they stick it down their pants?
Correct.
Okay. And once the, you said the female, her identification was found during a complete search at the booking window?
I believe that one was found at the booking window, correct?
Which is our standard procedure, according to our policies.
They would be searched at the booking window thoroughly before they're placed in a cell.
So it's fair to say, inside a liquor establishment, we only can do basically a rough pat frisk for weapons.
Correct.
Okay, and so therefore, we can't do a thorough search unless they voluntarily hand over an ID or you find it in their pocket.
If you don't feel something that feels like an ID on an outer pat frisk, I wouldn't have any of my detectives stick their hands in their pockets.
Lieutenant, can I have those IDs? Yeah, thank you, sir. So these are the ones. All right, so this is a main one.
Correct, and he said he wasn't asked for another form of ID.
Okay. This young lady didn't look like her at all. And this one? That's the, and that's obviously that date is, that's her, so if they would have shown that, that's obviously she's underage. Okay, I'll pass these around. Cliff, you want to see this?
Lieutenant, just a question.
Go right ahead, go right ahead.
Also fair to say, if you did do a pass frisk, you would be able to potentially feel if there was a passport in the pocket as well as an ID or a license?
Yes.
Okay, and same thing with military ID, are they fairly the same size as a driver's license? Do you know?
Yes.
Okay, I have no further questions at this time.
Thank you, Captain. You can step aside, Lieutenant. Sure, go ahead.
The 20-year-old, I believe we're using the name Caitlin as the first name.
Sure.
There's nothing in the report.
Attorney Howard, just move up just a little bit, that'd be fine, thank you.
There's nothing in the report that evidences any observation of possession of alcohol, that individual, correct?
Correct.
And following along the chairman's question regarding passport, you didn't look at any of these individuals' phones to see if in fact they had taken a picture of their passport and would be available during the secondary inspection of the doorman, correct?
I don't believe I have the authority to look at their phones unless they present it to me.
Okay.
Yes, we would need consent to look into someone's phone, and that's not a normal practice of ours, and nor would it be an acceptable form of ID.
Sure.
Accepting a picture from a phone.
Understood, understood. Attorney Hardigan, are you good? Commissioners, questions?
Lieutenant, the person who was arrested outside for public drinking, did they say where they got the beer?
No, it doesn't reflect it in my report.
Thank you.
Commissioner Donahue, Commissioner Howe?
I just have, basically, there were two underage in possession of alcohol inside the bar.
Correct.
Okay. The outside, really, I may have been standing in the line, was part of the public, walks up and down the sidewalk or waits to get in. So there's nothing attributed to that minor as having been served that alcohol by the smokehouse.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Lieutenant, the young man who had the bottle of Corona on the sidewalk,
Yes,
probably 10 feet from the door.
correct.
Did you see any security there from?
Not when we deployed from the car. When I got out of the car, Mr. Kaplan was at the door.
But there were no security to check IDs there or anything? So
I-
this 18-year-old,
I believe there was people at the door checking IDs.
but they didn't see this young man, an 18-year-old, drinking a Corona on the sidewalk?
I have no idea. I don't know.
Okay, all right. Good, sure. Go ahead.
If I could, just addressing the issue of the, I think it's a 12-ounce Corona beer.
Yeah.
Mr. Kelleher, Mr. Kaplan, Sergeant Perini's report evidences that he was stopped in front of 88 Middle Street. As this commission knows, this building is 98. Mr. Kelleher will tell you that he is measured, and we don't know exactly where he was on 88, but if he takes the position from the middle of the 98 building to the middle of 88, he will tell you it's 51 feet. The other issue I'd like to bring up, the report, which is before this commission, indicates that it came upon the smokehouse coming up Middle Street. Now, as this commission knows, Middle Street is one way, heading from, say, Central Street to Palmer Street. So looking at the front of the building, they would come up on the left-hand side. Lieutenant Coyle's report indicates that when he arrived, there's approximately 40 people to the left and the right. Now, as this commission may remember, the last time I believe I was here with the Village Smokehouse was in October 2016. And what the commission asked me to do at that time in the conclusion of the hearing was to write a letter, and I've got a copy of it here, and I'm sure it's in the file, and it's dated November 2nd of 2016. And what you asked me to do, and I did, was to summarize the entry procedure. And reading from that letter, just one brief paragraph, it says, there's a single line for patrons to enter the establishment. During the busier periods, typically after midnight, the doormen queue the line in front of the building to the right of the front door, heading back to Palmer Street. So the practice was in November of 2016, as it is today, is to queue the line, looking at the building to the left-hand side. It appears to me, based upon Sergeant Perini's report, that this individual was approximately 51 feet away from the entry of the door with the beer. I think it's important to note, following Lieutenant Coyle's, that there's no evidence that obviously we served him or this individual came out of it. I mean, in the local rule itself, the immediately adjacent area, I've always struggled with that issue, but I mean, if you're going to get into a bar, you've got to be in a line. Mr. Kaplan and Mr. Kelleher will tell you that the line is to the right of the building. I mean, he, I'm sure, will tell you stories that he's been out there and said, told individuals to move, get out, and the response is, well, this is a public sideway, you can't do anything to me. And I mean, it's...
I know, but Counselor, to say that that 18-year-old had purchased that at another establishment and walked in that vicinity doesn't seem very credible to me.
No, I'm not saying that he purchased it. I don't know where he got it from. But all I'm saying is that...
But if it's a 12-ounce bottle...
A 12-ounce bottle. He
Right.
could have driven with it. He could have walked from it. He could have come from a downtown apartment from it.
But why would you stand on the sidewalk drinking it
Well, I
50
think...
feet away? Let's say your estimate was 50 feet
I have no
away.
idea. I have no idea. But what I'm saying is that I'm not certain our responsibility, if it extends, assuming that measurement is correct, 51 feet when he was not a prospective customer of the smokehouse. Because if he was a prospective customer of the smokehouse, he would be in the line on the other side of the building. So I would suggest that even puts him further away from where our potential patrons would be. I mean, I think this was a young kid who probably was headed out for the night and had been, to use a lack of a better term, had been pre-gaming, in an apartment, in a house. I don't know where he was, but I don't think he's ours.
Commissioner Howell?
Does the kid outside drinking the beer, did he get it at the Village Smokehouse?
No.
Probably, or maybe.
I'm sorry?
I'm just saying, from a fact finder's perspective, someone standing outside of the bar with, holding a bottle of beer, he probably got it in the bar. Is that substantial evidence? I don't think so. So,
I think the report of Sergeant Perini was that he was walking towards the smokehouse.
okay, but whatever, he's in the vicinity outside the bar.
Yes.
So I can conclude, yeah, maybe he got it, probably, but I don't think there's substantial evidence. I don't think that's your problem. I think the major problem is the kid with the main license who's under 21, drinking in the establishment.
I can address those issues also, Commissioner Howe. But what I was focusing on first was the violation of the 1.16.
Understood.
Right.
And I don't think that's I mean, I don't think there's substantial evidence that he got the beer there.
All right. I can address the others. Yes. And again, so what we've got is we've got 3 individuals there. And again, based upon Lieutenant Coyle's report and testimony, we go back to the same position that we had before. We have this Caitlin woman who's no evidence of possession of alcohol. So again, I think the law is clear. There can be no supportable finding. Emma, and this was the individual who was arrested, the report itself says that she provided a Massachusetts license. Now, I have brought, and I don't know if it's necessary, if the court or the commission will accept my representation, but I have brought a video this evening, and it's a little bit difficult to read because it slides, but what that video there's going to show 2 clips. It's going to show this individual entering the ladies' room. And the reason I brought that is because the report describes I think 1 detective and 1 sergeant following this woman into the lady room. So if there was any indication, any question as to who this individual is, I brought that along. The second clip on the tape would be Tony, who's this fellow right here, is the doorman at the Village Smokehouse. And he is a snapshot, short little video of him actually carting this Emma woman. And the report itself says that it's a valid Massachusetts license. Now, again, falling back on the safe haven of 138, Section 34, you've seen the license. It appears to me to be reasonable reliance upon that. So I think that then deflects of finding of the violation on that issue. The third one is this fellow Lecherio, the fellow from Maine. Now, what Mr. Kelleher, Mr. Kaplan will tell you is the smokehouse is a different animal than the safe. And what they do is they accept Massachusetts IDs unless it is passed by either Kelleher or Kaplan. When you can see the videos, both Kelleher and Kaplan are there, and I think it's known to commission that these guys are working owners. Now, what the video shows is Lecherio, and he's identical to that license, which I had not seen before, presenting an ID to Tony. So, if the commission were to believe Tony's testimony, the video shows that he comes in, passes the ID, you can see Kelleher and Kaplan in the background, he just enters the location. Tony will tell you that unless that was, basically it's outside of his pay grade. If it wasn't a Massachusetts ID, he would say, talk to one of these guys. So, what I'm suggesting is we don't have Lecherio here to be questioned. And if you were to believe the testimony of the doorman and the established practice of the establishment, this fellow had to have a Massachusetts ID when he went in. I don't know what he showed the officer or not, but he wouldn't have got past that door without showing, he wouldn't have got past the doorman, Tony, without showing the Mass ID. So, I mean, that's where we are. So I think it's a question, he's not here, unfortunately. I think the commission could draw an inference from his not being present in potentially what his testimony would be. And if the court or the commission has any question of the doorman or Mr. Kaplan or Kelleher, are obviously available.
Thank you. Further questions, Commissioner Arnold, did you have? No? Commissioner Donahue?
Only on the two Massachusetts IDs, the young ladies, they are fake? They're fake Mass IDs?
Yes, and I do have some additional information regarding the female.
These are also of good quality,
Yes.
the IDs. Okay, thank you, Captain.
Go ahead, Captain, you had something?
Yes,
to add?
regarding the female who was arrested, according to the arrest report submitted by Detective D'Angelo, she did observe this female drinking an alcoholic beverage and appeared to be underage. Upon seeing Detective D'Angelo, she fled to the bathroom, and Detective D'Angelo's observations were that this female that was subsequently arrested was intoxicated, her eyes were bloodshot, et cetera. So I just wanted to add that in, that the detective did see that she was charged with minor in possession of alcohol, as well as resisting arrest and hindering an investigation.
Now, was she one of the individuals with a fake ID?
Yes.
She was as well.
A mass fake ID.
And the,
Next question, though. But Officer D'Angelo did notice that that individual was inebriated.
yes.
Okay.
And as far as the individual with the main driver's license, if I could just add something to that.
Please.
The individual is 19 years old, and he is a resident of Everett, Massachusetts, and it's, under the Massachusetts law, as you all know, it's still a violation to accept an out-of-state ID unless you only can have a mass ID.
Did we notice that there were, so did that person did not get arrested, so we don't know if they had a passport on their person or?
I don't know if the lieutenant can answer if you searched not, I don't have that answer, but they did find the main ID on him.
Okay, Lieutenant Coyle, can you?
I think I can answer that, Mr.
Sure,
Mr.
go
Chairman.
ahead.
He had to have provided the doorman Tony with a mass ID or the picture that I'm ready to show you. It wasn't a passport, it was a mass ID, because if it was a passport, it only would have been required if it was an out-of-state ID. That's the policy. So I'm not suggesting
I just want to know if there
Yep.
was. Maybe Lieutenant Coyle knows.
I'll just reflect from my report, I can't pronounce it, Licerio, thank you, explained that he was not asked for any other form of identification after displaying the fake main ID to the door employee. That's what Detective D'Angelo stated to me from speaking to that man, and that's what I put in my report.
Your reply to that, Counselor?
I don't think it's an accurate statement, as evidenced by the picture. And again, reflecting back, if it was a Maine license, Tony would have been shown, the video would show that he would have passed it off to Kaplan or Kelleher, who was standing right behind him. So I do not think, I think the detective's recitation of what Mr. Licerio told her was accurate, but I do not believe, based upon the video evidence, that Mr. Licerio's statement I do not believe it was accurate.
Mr. Chairman, I mean, it doesn't make sense to have a fake mass ID along with a fake main ID in your possession.
I don't know why the detective
That
would
wouldn't
even
make
put that in
sense.
the report if they did.
Pardon me?
In fact, why would the detective put that in the report that they had no other ID?
Well, she didn't check. According to the report, he said, yeah, it was a fake ID. I was never asked. Now, what I'm saying, again, I'm just saying that if Tony's here to testify, and he's going to say, listen, unless this fellow showed me a mass ID, and again, we're back to the situation, you can't frisk, you need consent, you need to do this, but it wasn't a main ID that he went through.
With all due respect, I'm going to take the detective's word over your doorman. And his name's not Licerio, it's Licerco.
That's his fake name.
Yeah. Any other further comments from commissioners? Captain, do you have anything else to add?
No, I don't, sir.
All right, Lieutenant Coyle, do you have anything else to add? No? Okay. All right, concerning Officer Detective D'Angelo, right? Is it Detective? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
All right, with the 19-year-old, and she had a fake ID.
That's correct, a mass fake ID.
And so we're on touchy ground there with that. And
Correct.
I'm still having a problem with that. However, Detective D'Angelo said that that young woman was inebriated, intoxicated. Therefore, there was an over-serving of alcohol, which I have a problem with. Is that consistent with the report?
Yes, consistent with the report and that we have.
Do you
with my detective.
refute my statement, Attorney Harding?
That,
That Detective D'Angelo, upon arresting the 19-year-old, found her to be intoxicated.
I would agree that the report reflects that it evidenced the consumption of alcohol,
All right.
certainly.
I
Yes.
appreciate that, thank you.
If I could just provide one point of clarification. So the actual notice that went to the licensee as to what the violation is not, does not include any allegation of excessive
Intoxication.
service or
Right.
over intoxication. It's
Yep.
just the minor in possession
Right.
component.
So I appreciate you pointing that out to me. So we have a fake ID, we have a gentleman on the sidewalk who's 18 years old that we really don't know. We're 99% sure that happened there, but it's not concrete, and I agree with Commissioner Howe on that count. So that leaves the last person there who was with the main license. Now, that's the one that I believe, at this point, there is no other, I'm gonna take the detective's report is that there was no other ID other than this main ID, and I find that they are in violation of that complaint. Do you have any problems with that, Councilor Grasso, and my assumptions?
No, and again, I would just reaffirm that where the burden is affirmatively on the licensee to provide evidence that
Right.
a correct license was checked. So,
Right.
So it's their burden to show that if the claim is that there was a separate Massachusetts license that was shown, it would be their burden to show.
But the detective's narrative says that there was no other form of ID other than the main ID.
That's right.
Right, and I'll stay on point on that, okay, all right. And in that, I find them in violation. On the other counts, I would place them on file. I would make a motion, however, though, that with this license, that the licensee would serve a one-day license, and that suspension will be served, 1 day. Do I have a second on the motion? Seconded by Commissioner Howe. Any further
Mr.
discussion?
Chairman, can I
Commissioner-
just ask the question?
Sure you
We're
can.
basically going with only one count.
That's it.
And on the second manager's responsibility,
We're not placing it on file,
placing it on file. Thank you.
okay?
I agree with that.
All right, and it was seconded by Commissioner Howe. Any further discussion on the motion? Okay, so now we're looking at a date.
They are open Tuesdays through Sundays.
Okay. Ryan, the suspension date will take place on April 19th. Can make sure the notice is sent out, the license is brought to, Captain Hodgin, make sure that license is brought to the police department.
Yes, sir.
April 19th, Friday, April 19th. And all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, we do. Excuse me for 1 second, before the parties leave. Ryan, do we have anything held in abeyance right now at Village Smokehouse?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Is there anything being held in abeyance at this point with the Village Smokehouse?
No.
No, sir.
No, sir, okay, thank you very much. I appreciate everybody being here, thank you very much. Secretary Wynn, the next agenda item.
May I,
You
please?
may, yes, you may.
Okay, thank you. Agenda item number 10, executive session. Regarding matter of litigation, namely LD Holdings doing business as Bar 74 Lounge and Grill versus Lowell License Commission, public discussion of which could have a detrimental effect on the city's position. Mr. Chairman, the commission, I request we consider voting to go into an executive session.
Let the record show that I will be recusing myself from the executive session. There should be a motion made by one of the other commissioners to go into executive session. By Commissioner Krieger.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner McCarthy. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? And second of
roll
all,
call,
hold on.
please,
hold-
roll call.
Roll call, and yes, exactly.
So the motion on the floor is for the commission to go into an executive session made by Commissioner Krieger, seconded by Commissioner McCarthy, regarding litigation.
Roll
If I may,
call.
just before the roll call, we should also make clear on the record that the body will not be reconvening in open session.
I was just about to say that.
Sorry, I jumped the gun. I apologize.
He's got it all down.
So be it.
So be it.
Roll call?
Roll call, Ryan, you want to do a
I'm
roll call?
sorry.
Thank you.
With regard to the motion to go into an executive session, Commissioner Krieger. Commissioner McCarthy. Yes. Commissioner Howe.
Yes.
Commissioner Donahue.
Yes.
4 yeas, 1 abstain, and the commission will not reconvene
With that being said, everyone have a good
regular
evening.
session.